Welcome to this tutorial on how to complete a background check for Pure. You will receive an email from Pure asking you to complete the background check. After reading the email, you can select the green Click Here button to start the check. On pressing the button, you'll be redirected to the background check webpage. Read through the instructions, and when you're ready, select the Let's Get Started button. This check will take around 10 to 15 minutes to complete on average. Firstly, complete some basic details such as your name, date of birth, email address, phone number, and your nationality. You'll also need to enter your national insurance number. If you've never been issued a national insurance number, as opposed to just not having it to hand, you can enter AA112233B as shown here. Once the information is entered, select Save and Proceed to move on to the next section. Next, you'll need to enter your address history for the last 12 months. If you're completing a DBS, you'll need to provide 6 years of address history. To start, select Add Address, select the country, type in the postcode, and then select the address from the list. Once done, enter the county and then specify the dates where you lived at that address. If you're currently living there, then ensure the current box is checked under To Date. Click Save to finish. You'll see the address has now been added to the timeline. If you have lived at another address within the requested time period, you can add another address by selecting the Add Address button. If you have made a mistake, you can edit the address you have added via the Actions drop-down button. If you have finished your education within the past 2 years, or 3 years if applying for an NHS role, you will need to add an academic reference. Otherwise, you can skip this step using the navigation bar on the left. Click Add Reference to add your academic reference. Next, type in the relevant details of your qualification, such as institution, department, course, and the grade that you achieved. Click the down arrow and type in your qualification dates. If you're still on your course, click the checkbox under 2. Click the down arrow again and you'll be prompted to enter the referee details. Type in their name, email address, phone number, institution, the department and the position that they hold. Check the Do Not Contact button if you do not want them to receive a reference request. Once done, it will appear in your timeline. You can either add another qualification under the same reference using the Add Qualification button, or add another altogether using the Add Reference button. Click Save and Proceed to continue to the next step. You'll need to provide 2 years of employment history, or 3 years if you're applying for an NHS role. If you've been in education within the previous 2 or 3 years, you'll need to add an employment history up to that point. To add an employment reference, select the Add Reference button. Type in the details of your employment, such as the organisation, department, and the position which you held. Click the down arrow and then type in the dates of your employment. Use the checkbox under 2 if you're still working at that employment. Click the down arrow again and then type in the details of the referee. In this case, we're still working at the company, and so we will check the Do Not Contact checkbox, as we do not want the referee to receive a reference request. Click Save to add this reference to your background check. You can add more references via the Add Reference button near the bottom. If you've had a gap in your work or education history within the past 2 years or 3 years if you're applying for an NHS role, and that gap has been more than 6 weeks, this will need to be accounted for. You can add an activity or claim for that gap by selecting the Add Activity Claim button. Next, type in the dates of the activity or claim. You must also provide a coherent explanation for what you were doing during the employment gap. In this example, we're providing a 2-month or so gap where the candidate travelled around Africa after finishing university. You can also add supporting documentation too if you wish. You can do this via the Choose File button underneath the Note text box. Please note that a personal reference, which we're going to cover in the next section, will need to be provided for all the gaps in your employment, in addition to the claim itself. Once done, click Save. You can add another claim or activity using the same Add Activity button if required. Your personal reference must be listed on the accepted occupations, which are listed here. If it is, select Add Reference to add a reference. Type in the reference's details where required. You can add the period known, relationship and address if you wish, though these fields are not compulsory. Decide whether you want this reference to be contacted by reviewing the Do Not Contact box below and then click Save. You will then see a message at the top that the reference has been added successfully. At this point, you can either add another reference via the Add Reference button or press Save and Proceed to continue on to the next step. You must download and read all the documents supplied in the Supplied Literature section by downloading each document, giving it a read, and then checking the I acknowledge receipt of this document checkbox before completing the background check. Please also save these files in a safe place for future reference. Once you have read through all of the available documents and ticked each checkbox, click Save and Proceed to continue. Read through your details carefully to ensure there are no errors. You can edit any details by selecting the Amend button above each section. Read through the terms and conditions and then click I have read and agree to these terms and conditions to submit your background check. You may also be prompted to carry out some third-party checks too. Select Proceed to the first check button and then follow the steps shown. You must complete and sign the terms of engagement within this section, and there may be some other documents to complete for those requiring a DBS. Once the third-party checks have been completed, select Save and Proceed to finish the background check. Once finished, you'll see this thank you message. You may now close your browser window.